Ever think about like how a simple idea goes from just a thought to actually becoming, a real thing out in the world? It's pretty amazing when you think about it, right?
It really is. That whole journey from that first spark of an idea to something tangible that has an impact, it's fascinating. Definitely full of unexpected twists and turns along the way.
Definitely not a straight line. And that's exactly what we're diving into today on the deep dive. The learner has shared some great material, and we're going to be focusing on a document called Beyond Entrepreneurship, Changing the World.pdf.
It's going to be our guide as we explore this awesome world of innovation and entrepreneurship.
Yeah, like a roadmap, I guess. And this isn't just about that kind of classic image of a lone inventor, right? The sources you shared cover so much, everything from those first, light bulb moments to building a solid business to the importance of a really great team to understanding what customers really want, the nitty-gritty of product development, how to protect your ideas, that whole intellectual property thing, marketing, funding, and even like thinking globally right from the start.
It's a lot to cover, but it's all connected.
It is. So our mission today is to really dig deep, find those like key insights, those aha moments, and maybe uncover a few surprises along the way. We want to give you, the learner, a solid understanding of this whole complex world without overwhelming you. Ready to jump in?
Let's do it.
Okay, so the material points out that the old way of thinking about launching a business has really changed. It used to be all about those formal business plan competitions, right?
Yeah.
But now there's a big shift towards more adaptable methods, things like the lean launchpad.
And this is a big shift in how we think about things. The traditional business plan was based on, well, a lot of assumptions. Steve Blank, who's a big name in the lean startup world, said something like, no business plan survives first contact with a customer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. But the lean launchpad, on the other hand, is all about getting out there, talking to customers from day one, and using their feedback to, like, steer the ship.
So it's all about like testing your ideas early and often.
Exactly. And it's not just theory. The NSF, National Science Foundation, they actually use this lean launchpad model in their I-Corps program.
So what's that all about?
Well, they use it to help scientists and engineers who have, really cool research to see if there's actually a market for it.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's about bridging that gap between research and the real world.
Which brings us to customer discovery. And this isn't just about developing a product and then trying to find someone to buy it, right?
No, not at all. Customer discovery is about really understanding your customer, their needs, their problems. It's about making sure your solution actually fits those needs.
So it's like figuring out if you're building the right thing before you actually build it, right?
Exactly. Get out of the building, talk to people, test your assumptions, be ready to be surprised.
And that's where the minimum viable product comes in. It's not about launching a perfect product right away, is it?
Nope, not at all. The MVP, as they call it, is a basic version of your product or service. It's about testing your core value proposition with real customers, getting feedback as early as possible. You put out just enough to see if people are interested.
Makes sense.
And if that feedback shows you need to change direction, that's where pivoting comes in.
Pivoting.
Yeah, it's a big part of being agile.
So like changing your strategy based on what you learn.
Yeah, exactly. The text uses Prevo Technologies as an example. They were working on oral insulin delivery.
Oh, wow.
But then they realized that the market for diabetes treatments was really crowded. So they pivoted, using their same tech, but focused on oral cancer chemotherapy treatment.
So a totally different market.
Totally different, but it was a better fit based on their research and, the market. This ties into effectual entrepreneurship, which is about, adapting to your circumstances as you go along.
Okay, so we've talked about being flexible, focusing on customers, but how do entrepreneurs like actually structure their thinking about their business? I think that's where the business model canvas comes in, right?
Absolutely. The business model canvas, created by Alexander Osterwalder, is a great tool. It's about how an organization creates, delivers, and captures value. It doesn't matter if you're a for-profit or a nonprofit, it helps you see the big picture.
So it's like a blueprint for your business, but visual, right?
It has 9 building blocks that cover all the key elements. You've got your customer segments, that's, who you're serving. Value propositions, which is like what makes you unique. Channels, meaning how you reach customers. There's customer relationships, revenue streams, key resources, key activities, key partnerships, and finally, cost structure.
Okay, that was a lot. 9 different pieces.
Yeah, but they all fit together. It's like a puzzle. And seeing all those pieces together can help you spot opportunities for innovation. Like the text mentions Dell Computer.
They did things a little differently, right?
They did. They completely changed the computer industry. They went direct to customer, cutting out the middleman, offering customized computers at lower prices.
Pretty smart. So they innovated their business model, not just their product.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, you've got an idea, a business model, but you need a team, right?
You absolutely need a team. And not just any team, but the right team. People with diverse skills and talents who can work together. The text mentions that it's usually a bad idea to start with friends and family.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Well, business disagreements can, really strain those relationships. It's better to keep things separate.
I can see that. And no matter who's on your team, having clear roles is super important, right?
It is. You need written agreements that spell everything out. Who
Mm.
does what are the expectations? And investors don't like it when team members aren't fully committed.
It's a red flag.
It is. It shows a lack of, seriousness. And it's not just about technical skills. Experience and a willingness to learn are important too. The book, The Founder's Dilemma, talks about this.
The founder's dilemma. I'll have to check that out.
That's a good one. It talks about, like, the tough choices founders face when building their teams. And the text also talks about the importance of entrepreneurial awareness, being able to spot opportunities, that sort of thing.
So you need a team with the right skills, experience, and mindset.
Yeah, pretty much. And when we think about those really innovative companies, there are some common characteristics. The text mentions a shared vision, strong leadership, and a structure that encourages creativity and collaboration.
So it's about creating the right environment, not just having a good idea.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's talk about those good ideas. How do entrepreneurs figure out what to create, what people will actually want and need?
You have to find a real problem to solve. A pain point, as they call it. There's a good analogy in the text. Think of aspirin versus vitamins.
Aspirin. What do you mean?
Aspirin solves a problem, like a headache. Vitamins are nice to have, but they don't fix a specific, urgent problem. Businesses that solve those urgent problems tend to do much better.
Like Zipcar, right. They solved the problem of needing a car in the city.
Exactly. And Amazon, eBay, Tinder, Twitter, Snapchat, Spotify, Waze, they all solve problems.
And the text talks about the difference between need pull and technology push innovation. Need pull is when a need drives the innovation. Technology push is when you have a technology and you try to find a problem for it.
And need pull is usually more successful.
Because there's already a demand, right?
Right. But there are other drivers of innovation too. Crisis, accidents, mass customization, user innovation, even imitation. Think about penicillin or Post-it notes. Those were accidents.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And then there are things like recombinant innovation, where you combine existing things in a new way. And regulatory changes can open up new possibilities too.
And then there's Tesla. The text uses them as an example of how economic, social, technological, and political forces can all align to create an opportunity.
Yeah, they capitalized on rising gas prices, the desire for green solutions, advancements in battery tech, and government policies that were, favorable to alternative energy.
So they were in the right place at the right time with the right product.
Exactly.
Okay, you've got your problem, your solution. Now, how do you turn that idea into an actual product or service? I think this is where creative destruction and disruptive innovation come in.
Yeah, those are key concepts. Creative destruction is about how new things come along and make old things obsolete. Think about smartphones replacing flip phones and digital cameras.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
It does. And then there's disruptive innovation, which is about how new companies often start by targeting those like low-end markets that the big companies ignore.
Yeah.
And then they gradually move up market, taking on the big guys.
Like mini mills in the steel industry, right?
Yeah, they started small, making cheaper steel, and then they got better and better and eventually challenged the big steel mills.
And then there are frameworks like the stage gate model and the development funnel, which are about managing the process of developing new products, right?
Yeah, but the text focuses on the diffusion of innovations theory.
What's that all about?
It's about understanding why some products get adopted quickly and others don't. There are 5 factors: relative advantage, compatibility, complexity, trialability, and observability.
Okay, break those down for me.
So, relative advantage is how much better the new thing is compared to the old thing. There's a 10x rule, meaning it needs to be 10 times better to really take off.
Wow, 10 times. That's a lot.
It is. Then there's compatibility. How well does it fit with people's existing values and habits? Complexity, how easy is it to use and understand? Trialability, can people try it before they buy it? And finally, observability. Can people see the benefits?
So a product needs to be better, easy to use, and people need to be able to see why it's better.
Exactly. And technology adoption is much faster today than it used to be.
Yeah, smartphones took over the world pretty quickly.
They did. And the text even has checklists to help you evaluate these factors.
Okay, so you've got a great product, people are using it. Now you need to protect your ideas, right? That's where intellectual property comes in.
Yeah, IP is crucial, especially in fields like life sciences and IT, where there's so much, upfront investment. The iLink case is a good example of what can happen if you don't protect your IP.
So what are the ways to protect your ideas?
There are four main types: patents, copyright, trademarks, and trade secrets.
Okay, let's go through each one.
So, patents give you the exclusive right to make, use, and sell your invention for a certain period of time. To get a patent, your invention has to be new, not obvious, and useful.
Makes sense. What about copyright?
Copyright protects your rights as the creator of original works. Things like writing, music, software code. It's automatic. You don't have to apply for it.
Oh, that's good to know. What about trademarks?
Trademarks protect your brand,
What?
your name, logo, slogan, things that identify your company and products.
And finally, trade secrets.
Those are confidential information that gives you a competitive edge, like a secret formula or a special manufacturing process.
Like the recipe for Coca-Cola.
Exactly. And the iLink case is a cautionary tale. They didn't patent their technology because of the cost and time involved, and then competitors copied them.
That's rough.
It is. And the text also talks about the Apple design patent lawsuits, which shows how expensive and time-consuming it can be to defend your patents.
So protecting your IP is a long game.
It is. And there are also business method patents for unique ways of doing things, especially online.
Okay, so you've protected your idea, now you need to get it out there. That's where marketing comes in, right?
It is. And the goal is to achieve product market fit, where your product really meets the needs of your target market. There's a metric where if 40% of your users would be very disappointed if your product went away, that's a good sign you have product market fit.
40%. Interesting.
It is. And the text talks about this idea of before product market fit and after product market fit. It's all about focusing on that fit early on.
Got it. So once you have that fit, what's next?
Well, then you need to think about the 4 Ps of marketing: product, price, promotion, and place.
The classic 4 Ps.
Exactly. What are you selling? How much are you charging? How are you promoting it? And how are people getting it?
So lots to consider.
There is. And the text emphasizes market segmentation, which means targeting your marketing to specific groups of people, like UMass Online, focusing on working adults who need to finish their degrees.
Makes sense to focus on a specific group.
It does. And you also need to position your product in the market and build a strong brand. The text uses the example of the Chevy Nova, which didn't do so well in Spanish-speaking countries because Nova means doesn't go in Spanish.
Oh, wow. That's a marketing fail.
Yeah, it's a good example of how cultural differences matter. And then there are different pricing strategies like skimming, penetration pricing, and things like that.
Right.
And the text mentions some online pricing models like freemium and subscription models.
Like Spotify or Netflix.
Exactly. And then there's promotion. Traditional advertising is still around, but public relations and publicity are important too, especially for startups.
Because it's cheaper and can be more credible, right?
Right. But the text also talks about how the media landscape is changing, and it's harder to control the message these days.
Okay, so you've got a product, you're marketing it, now you need money.
Every business needs funding at some point. And there are different types of funding: bootstrapping, friends and family, bank loans, and venture capital.
Okay, let's break those down.
Bootstrapping is about using your own money or early sales to fund your growth. It's how iLink got started. Friends and family is self-explanatory, but the text cautions against it, for the same reasons we talked about earlier with teams.
Right, potential for conflict.
Exactly. Then there are bank loans, which are good for established businesses with good cash flow. And then there's venture capital, which is for high-growth companies.
And VC money usually comes in stages, right?
Yeah, there's seed funding, then Series A, B, and so on. And sometimes multiple VC firms will team up to invest in a company.
And you mentioned that you had to personally guarantee some bank loans for iLink. That sounds risky.
It was, but it was necessary. The text also talks about funding for nonprofits, which is a different game altogether.
So donations, grants, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and things like membership fees. Nonprofits need to make money too. There's a saying, no margin, no mission. And there's also crowdfunding, which has become a big thing lately.
Like Kickstarter and GoFundMe.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. from ideas to products to marketing to funding. And the text emphasizes that today, entrepreneurship is global.
It is. The world is your market. World markets are bigger and often growing faster than domestic markets. And technology, trade agreements, and better transportation have made it much easier to do business globally.
So even if you're doing well in the US, there's a whole world out there.
Exactly. And there's a strong correlation between entrepreneurship and a country's economic well-being.
So a strong entrepreneurial ecosystem is good for everyone.
It is. And the text talks about how the costs of shipping and communication have come down a lot, which makes global business easier. McNeil Engineering Company is an example of a company that adapted to these global shifts.
So thinking globally is essential for modern entrepreneurs.
It is.
This has been a really great deep dive. We've talked about everything from the initial spark of an idea to building a business, to the importance of a strong team, to understanding customers, protecting your ideas, marketing, funding, and even the global marketplace.
It's all connected.
It is. And remember, the learner, this isn't a state line. It's messy, it's iterative, it's all about learning and adapting as you go.
Exactly.
So one last thought for you to ponder. What aspect of this whole process surprised you the most? What will you do differently now?
It's about finding that balance between planning and being flexible, being able to adjust to the unexpected.
We've really just scratched the surface here. Each of these topics could be a deep dive in itself, but hopefully this has given you a good foundation for thinking about innovation and entrepreneurship. We hope you found it valuable.
And thanks for joining us on the deep dive.
See you next time.